Hello and welcome back to the last lecture in this series. For the most part, we have ended the past 35 lectures with a short FAQ or frequently asked questions session to answer the questions I'm often asked about the lecture topic. But nutrition is a very broad and very personal subject. After all, we make choices about ours and our family's diet every day and several times a day. So many nutrition questions can remain. That's why we'll be devoting this last lecture to responding to some of the common questions about nutrition that I have been asked during my years as a registered dietitian and a professor of nutrition. So let's start with some general questions that I believe many of you might have had. What does a nutrition counselor or dietitian do? Well, I'm first going to start out by correcting the nomenclature. You are a nutritionist because you're interested in nutrition. That's the definition. There is a difference between the definition of a nutritionist and a registered dietitian. A registered dietitian must go to college, complete a 4-year degree, and at minimum do an internship where he or she can apply what they've learned in the classroom to the real world. So when you're going out and looking and someone's hanging up their shingle and saying, I'm a nutritionist, you also want to ask the question, are you also a registered dietitian? So registered dietitian is the right kind of healthcare provider that you would look for. How do you find a good one? Well, just like you'd find a good doctor, sometimes you can ask a friend, oh, by the way, have you been to a dietitian? Yeah, I had a really great one. He or she helped me to lose weight. If that's not within your friend's purview, they have not ever seen a registered dietitian, you can go to the website of the American Dietetic Association, which is www.eatright.org, and you can find a dietitian in your area. But I want you to keep in mind here that just as physicians have become specialized, you have an obstetrician, you have a pediatrician, you have an internist, dietitians are also specialized. So if you're really looking for a pediatric dietitian, that's the kind of person that you want to request. So when you're looking through that list of registered dietitians, look at someone who might practice in a large pediatric hospital. So again, you're looking for a registered dietitian, not a nutritionist, and look for a subspecialist in the area that you're interested in. What should an individual consider when they're consulting with a dietitian? Well, I'm going to suggest to you that you want to take a look at, can you connect with this person? Because nutrition is really very personal. You want someone who's going to understand you, your family lifestyle, things that you do, things that you're interested in doing. So you want to make sure that you have someone that you connect with. You can also expect to spend about an hour, maybe an hour and a half with someone who's going to, first and foremost, do a nutrition assessment to see where you're starting, help you to formulate goals, negotiate goals with you, and come up with an action plan when you walk out the door. I usually will describe to my clients my first visit with them is we're going to get started, but it may take me more than one visit to understand your barriers, what's making this plan work for you and why it's great, or where maybe I missed something on the assessment or I didn't ask a right question and now we have to modify that goal. Another question is, upon a diagnosis of a disorder or a condition that's affected by diet, now what should I look for? Well, again, what you're looking for is someone who's a specialist in that area. I will tell you, it's been a long time since I've worked in an intensive care unit, so I wouldn't be the person to give you advice on a truly critical illness. But because my practice is on weight management and pediatric and sports, I might be the kind of person that you would want to employ during that period of time. Another frequently asked question is, if I'm going to invest my valuable time and my valuable resources seeing a dietitian, what information do I need to bring along? And this actually is a really brilliant question because you want to maximize that time with that person. You don't want to have them say, well, what's your cholesterol? Gee, I don't know, I've got that at home, I didn't think about it. So bring any pertinent information. If you've had a bod pod done, for example, to assess your body fat, bring that along with you. An invaluable take-along is write down what you normally eat. Remember, this is all about making progress, not perfection. Write down what you normally eat, areas of the day that you might struggle. Write down a 3-day diet history before you go. Keep in mind that sometimes we eat a little differently Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday we do something different. So I want you to think about, how does my weekend vary from my weekday? And maybe you give me one day that's a weekend and 2 days that are weekday. So keep in mind, what you're trying to do is make this experience with a registered dietitian as personal as you can. Now, I'm also going to take this opportunity to answer a question that I've never been asked before, but boy, I would really like to answer. What do you like best about being a dietitian? Well, honestly, the science of nutrition is intriguing and fascinating to me, but what I like the best are people. So everybody's going to bring a little bit different spin. So one of the things that makes this as a career choice fresh and interesting is no two people are the same. They're not going to have the same barriers, the same preferences, and so that makes my job unbelievably exciting and something that I look forward to doing every single day. Another great question, are there certain websites for women or men that you would recommend? And again, a lot of it depends on what is your individual goal. So if you said to me, I would really like to become more fit, then I would say to you, go to the American College of Sports Medicine website, acsm.org, and again, learn how to find a professional in your area. If you're looking for something like a fun nutrition tip of the day, you can again certainly go to eatright.org and have a nutrition tip sent to your computer on a daily basis. If you're looking for more specific information, if you're looking for something that's more disease-tailored, keep in mind that if you put in a Google search or an internet search for diabetes, you're going to come up with a lot of things that are great, but a lot of things that are not so great. So how do you refine that? We'll go to governmental sites. So for example, you may want to go to the National Institutes of Health if you're looking for really great and reliable information on diabetes. If you're looking for reliable and great information on cancer, go to the websites of the big cancer centers in the United States. It could be Sloan Kettering. In my area of the world, it's MD Anderson. So you can go to those websites and again get really great information tailored for that disease. Another frequently asked question, what changes have I seen in the science of nutrition since I first began my practice? When I first began, we really talked mostly about food and not so much about the individual nutrients. Kind of midway through my practice, we all jumped on it's the vitamin and mineral bandwagon. And you started to see dietitians, including myself, recommend that everybody take vitamin E, or that vitamin C was going to be the great solution for the common cold. And as a lot of the research has been refined and explored in a little bit more depth, what I'm now seeing is almost that retro going back to whole food. Because in this series, we've talked about wonderful things, wonderful compounds in fruits and vegetables with names that we can't pronounce. And it's the pigments in fruits and vegetables. It is truly the whole food that makes us well. It's not an individual nutrient. So basically, we are getting back to basics. Mother Nature knew best. In our nature's infinite wisdom, all the things that we need to be healthy and well actually belong in the whole food, not the processed food, but the whole food. Under the category of nutrition and diets, and again, diet is one of these things that always is on everybody's mind, and I'm going to first and foremost refine that word for you. A diet is what you eat. You can modify that diet to meet a particular interest of yours or a health goal of yours, but diet doesn't necessarily imply weight reduction. So as we look at frequently asked questions, what are the risks and benefits of being vegetarian? Is it a healthy lifestyle? Can I get sufficient protein and other nutrients? Well, there are some real benefits associated with being vegetarian. Almost by definition, you're going to be getting more vegetables, more maybe alternative sources of protein like beans and nuts. So you are going to be gravitating towards what we know to be healthy, a plant-based diet. The challenge is, do you know enough about protein and its food sources? Can you get enough? And again, vegetarians have a wide variety of tools in their toolbox. Beans and rice would be a great source of protein for a vegetarian. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich on whole grain bread, another great source of protein. You could do tofu in a rice dish, another great source of protein. It's when you really refine that further and become vegan that you get yourself into a little bit of a dilemma. So getting sufficient protein on a vegetarian diet is not a problem. But remember, when I create a nutrient hole, if I don't have any animal protein in my diet, animal protein houses vitamin B12. So you can certainly be vegetarian, but if you drink milk and eat yogurt, there's your B12. If you're vegetarian and you really have no animal protein in your diet, you're also going to be missing vitamin B12, so keep that in mind. One of my favorite questions is, you know what? I became vegetarian to lose weight, but I've gained. Keep in mind, calories rule. And so if your goal is to become vegetarian, but you're not eating traditional meat anymore, but you've now added all the cheese in the world, cheese is going to be 100 calories an ounce, and lo and behold, I see a lot of people becoming vegetarian that lost sight of the concept that yes, vegetarianism is a very healthy plan, absolutely a healthy plan. The challenge is I still have to worry about calories, and so calories are always going to count on any kind of plan. So you think, well, I'm not eating cheese. Are you eating hummus, which is chickpeas and oftentimes oil added to it? Are you eating nuts? One of my favorite things to tell people is a cup of nuts has about 600 calories. Think of how easy it would be to grab a handful of nuts here and there, and all of a sudden you've got more calories than you would have gotten if you'd eaten meat. Health benefits are different, but I think the challenge is if you're vegetarian and you want to lose weight, you also have to control sources of fat in your diet. Another frequently asked question is, everybody in my family wants a different diet. My daughter's trying to lose weight, my son's trying to gain for wrestling, my husband wants gourmet meals, and I need to cook quickly. Now, the hard part is here, no one, and I truly mean no one, can be a short order cook for everyone in their family. And quite honestly, I don't think that's the best approach. You would think of it this way, that say, for example, you've got all kinds of different goals in your family, some people trying to gain, some people trying to lose. Your core meals can be the same. So for example, everybody, whether they're trying to gain or lose, should try to have 50% of their plate fruits and vegetables. Your husband wants a gourmet meal, 50% of that plate still needs to be fruits and vegetables. The way that you dress it up and the way that you don't end up being a short order cook is maybe on the other side that for some people, say for example, it's a pasta dish. For you, you may want pasta with marinara, you don't want all the oil. Your daughter wants pasta with marinara because she's trying to lose weight, but lo and behold, your son needs some additional calorie support. This is where you can fortify that food with olive oil. Just take out yours, add a little bit of olive oil, put some on your son's plate, and everybody's essentially eating the same thing. Now your husband may not be so happy, and maybe y'all can take a cooking class together to make sure that he can learn how to cook as well as you. Another asked question. I did an internet search for herbs and weight loss and got almost 1 million hits. Well, keep in mind that Americans are weight loss and diet focused, so it shouldn't surprise you that this is going to give you a lot of hits. Are there any that work? The short answer to that is yes. There are ones that work, but are they safe? And that's where we have to put the big question mark. Certainly there have been studies done looking at the combination of ephedra and caffeine as a weight loss strategy, 2 herbal products, 2 plant-based products, and it is effective, no doubt about it. However, if you have high blood pressure, or if you can't trust the purity and the safety of the herb that you got, you're not necessarily getting it from a big company. The value of that is, yeah, you might be able to lose weight, but at what cost? And so I always look at this as a teaching moment. If you are really interested in losing weight and you're looking for an alternative way to do it, maybe that alternative way for you needs to be a little bit more exercise and some smaller portions. And I know you've heard that before. But not being able to peek into your body, I get really concerned with the lack of purity and safety in the dietary supplement industry to say I could guarantee with 100% effectiveness that you wouldn't have an adverse reaction. And so my recommendation is, although there may be some science to support the herbs, we have to stop short at brands and say which ones are safe. And to be honest with you, I don't know that I can safely answer that question for you. Now as we get into the nutrition and lifestyle category, oftentimes what you hear is, you know what, I'm so busy in the morning or I don't have an appetite. I do kind of eat a reasonable lunch and maybe a healthy snack, but I work late and I arrive home and I'm ravenous and I eat a great deal just before I go to bed. I've heard this is called crescendo eating, highlights at the end of the day on television. Other than quitting my job, how can I break this unhealthy habit? Well, I'm pretty fond of saying that when I get that hungry, I would eat anything, and this is what I do for a living. So you have to realize if you allow yourself to get that hungry, if you don't balance your food intake, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and maybe a snack in between, if you don't do that, biology rules. This is not a question of willpower. And almost every time you see a diet commercial on television that just says, you need to have more willpower. But if you're skipping meals or you're eating a little bit during the day and you get home in the afternoon, most of us are going to overconsume. So I look at this as biology, not willpower. So if that is you, first and foremost, we know individuals who eat breakfast and eat breakfast every day, generally way less than their breakfast skipping counterparts. So on your action plan, it might be, can I get you something small at breakfast? Then you, after you've completed your own little nutrition assessment, recognize your most vulnerable period is about that 30 minutes before you walk in the door. And I'll tell you how I handle this. Just like you, I work long hours, I spend a lot of time at work, and if I am running late and it's now I'm not going to get home till 8 o'clock at night, I pop popcorn and eat it in my car on the way home. Because if not, I'm going to walk in the door so hungry that I will pick a whole dinner before I actually sit down and eat my dinner. So I think the challenge is to recognize the science says people do better, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and maybe a snack in between, and to recognize where you, as an individual, are most vulnerable. And boy, if that's right when you walk in the door, maybe your snack in the afternoon needs to be your car ride on the way home. Okay, nutrition choices and challenges. Again, frequently asked question. My sister-in-law swears by black cohosh for the treatment of hot flashes and other signs of menopause, but I'm doubtful. What do you think? Again, there's a disconnect here between the science. There is some science to suggest that black cohosh may be effective for hot flashes. The question is, can you get a reliable brand? So again, the disconnect that we have here in the United States is the purity and the safety of the brand. So again, as an individual, if you're willing to risk the fact that maybe you don't have as much active ingredient in your dietary supplement, but you feel so much better that you're willing to take the risk and take black cohosh, then I would say that really looks like one of those things that falls into that personal decision. There's not necessarily a right or a wrong, it becomes a personal decision. What is most important to you? Another frequently asked question is, my aging mother eats very little protein, meat is difficult for her to chew, and she just doesn't enjoy it as much as she used to. Isn't it harmful? What about nutrition supplements, nutritional drinks like Ensure to make up for what she doesn't eat? Keep in mind, we always want to look for a whole food approach. Although Ensure and a lot of the other nutrition drinks are nutritious, they are nutrition by definition. What can happen, particularly in the elderly, is you can end up with what's called taste fatigue. Now, I will say I love oatmeal, but if I had to eat oatmeal 365 days of the year for breakfast and that's all I had, at some point in time the oatmeal's not delicious. And so Ensure can fall into that same kind of trap. It's not that she might not like it in the beginning. The problem is, can she do it every day? So again, what you're looking at is the barrier that she might have to consumption of protein-containing foods is maybe she can't chew it. So are there softer protein alternatives? How about this? What about scrambled eggs? Add a little bit of cheese to it. Make it taste like something that's unbelievably nutritious and delicious, and something that is a whole food. Keep in mind that even the yellow in the yolk, although the yolk contains most of the cholesterol, the yellow in the yolk contains lutein. And so there's some additional nutrition in that egg, as well as the protein, that Ensure may not be able to provide. So again, it's not harmful to use these nutrition drinks, but always look for a whole food alternative. Another alternative for someone who just doesn't like the taste of meat or it tastes odd, this is again a time to partner up with your pharmacist. Is she having changes in her taste secondary to a medication that she's taking? Is there an alternative choice? Is she having changes in her taste because she actually has a nutrient deficiency? Zinc, for example, will cause an alteration in taste, and maybe the reason the food doesn't taste delicious anymore has nothing to do with the food itself, but a nutrient hole that your mother has. Because I deal with athletes, this is a very popular question in my world. My teenage son and his friends drink protein powders to build muscle. Are those products beneficial, harmful, worth the cost? First and foremost, couple key points here is puberty doesn't happen to everybody at the exact same time. So the bottom line is a 15-year-old male is not a 15-year-old male. There are going to be some 15-year-old men, and I mean men, that look like men, and then there are 15-year-old boys because they really look like boys. So the challenge is the individuals who are more likely to use protein powders and dietary supplements to build muscle are not who you think. In my practice, it's the individuals who are trying to look like the 15-year-old men, but are still 15-year-old boys. Protein powders by themselves do not build muscle. You have to create an anabolic stimulus. So for young men or young women or any of us who are trying to build muscle, protein doesn't build muscle unless the anabolic stimulus, weight training, strength training is present. So are they beneficial? Sure, they can be beneficial. Convenient source of protein. You can oftentimes take these protein powders or products with you to the gym and feed the muscles right after you're done exercising to help to build lean mass. But the problem is the harm comes when an individual believes that this is going to be muscles in a bottle. It doesn't work that way. You really have to have a whole, complete package. So when someone says, my son wants to buy whey protein, is it worth the cost? I'll remind you again about your nursery rhymes. Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet eating her curds and her whey. Whey protein is milk protein. The curd in milk is casein. So most of the muscle building products on the market are whey protein, and you can get it in milk. So a great recovery drink for your son or daughter who's lifting weights is actually chocolate milk. Chocolate, because the sugar is going to help to stimulate insulin production, and if you remember, insulin takes food out of the blood into the muscle where it can be used. So you want a little sugar after you're done lifting. And chocolate milk, how delicious is that? And again, it's in every high school cafeteria. So it'd be something that would be a way to minimize the cost and still get the benefits. Another question is, my son is in the service overseas under rigorous conditions. Is he really getting a well-balanced diet, eating the meals that are ready to eat, the MREs? Is there something that we can send to him to supplement his diet that's not going to spoil in the mail? The great news about our military is they actually have a great team of dietitians behind the scenes that help to design the MREs based on the level of activity that your son might get. So there is a lot of science going into those MREs. The problem is, and again, this is an example where you have to modify the food to fit the environment. The problem is you have to keep the food safe to eat. So oftentimes fresh foods are off the table, and the reason they're off the table is because they're going to spoil. So that means you as a parent might struggle to send him something to supplement his diet that isn't going to spoil in the mail. For my military friends, they'll tell me they love getting things like power bars and energy bars in the mail because, again, that might be something that adds a little flavor variety. Depending on how you ship it, you can actually send nuts and dried fruit. And again, that dried fruit is going to have a lot of the really beneficial phytonutrients in it. It's just in a more shelf-stable form. Another question. My sister is a heavy smoker, but she is worried that if she quits smoking, she will gain a lot of weight. Any suggestions for her from a nutritional standpoint? Well, keep in mind that we are all born with what I call being orally fixated. It is a survival mechanism for us as infants to want to put something in our mouth. So when someone is smoking, part of what is the addicting behavior, not the addicting chemicals, but the addicting behavior is the hand to mouth. So this would be a great place to put in air pop popcorn. 3 cups of air pop popcorn is only 100 calories, and she would be able to do the hand to mouth. The other thing is, I would recommend chew gum. because the minute that you are going to try and eat something, you have to take gum out of your mouth to do that. So it becomes a point of behavioral modification. So I think that might be a tip for her. It is a struggle for someone coming off of a nicotine addiction to not gain weight. So again, this is one of those strategies you got to plan your foods. Now, in beverages, what are the long-term impacts of diet soda and its associated chemicals on our health? Keep in mind that this category of non-nutritive sweeteners, things like aspartame and things like sucralose, marketed under Equal and Splenda, these chemicals must be tested before they went into the food supply. So for example, we talked about this GRAS list, generally regarded as safe. So sucrose and fructose are on the GRAS list, where NutraSweet and Splenda had to be tested before they went on the market. So the challenge is, may you have an individual adverse reaction to one of those non-nutritive sweeteners? And the answer is sure. Again, we're all individuals. But in terms of long-term safety, keep in mind that moderation rules. Our bodies love to drive down the middle of the road, and they really don't like to be in the ditch. So if you said to me, I really would love to have a diet soda in the middle of the afternoon, but I only drink one per day, your body is so unbelievably resilient that the science is going to support having an adverse reaction from that is not going to be a problem. But the science would not support if you decided in your wisdom that you were going to drink 10 diet sodas a day. Again, dose matters, so moderation is key. The unfortunate thing is, in our society, moderation doesn't sell. If we talk about moderate success, we're all looking for exceptional success. So I think that term moderate doesn't resonate well with the American consumers. Now, what about vitamin waters? Are they making them better for you? Are they great for you? I've got a couple things with vitamin waters. First and foremost, rarely do Americans have real overt vitamin deficiencies. And I'm not saying it doesn't occur, because it certainly can, but it's not common for an average, healthy, well person eating a really great diet to have a real significant deficiency in a vitamin. The challenge is, because these vitamin waters or any of the enhanced waters that are flavored, the majority of them are going to be flavored with some form of sugar. So the challenge is, now what you're doing in an effort to get a vitamin supplement, you're adding more sugar. Now certainly there are ones out there that are lower in calories, so I think the challenge becomes, is this something that you really want to do? But I will tell you, I really wish that I would have made that up, because it's been such a popular trend that has been a real seller with Americans. The disconnect here is, not all of us have a vitamin deficiency. Another frequently asked question, is there such a thing as too little stomach acid? And the answer is absolutely yes. There is a condition, it's known as achlorhydria, where you don't make enough stomach acid. And we think of stomach acid as a bad thing, and it's not. Stomach acid kills bacteria, it activates thiamine, it activates iron, and so too little stomach acid is not such a great thing. So I think the challenge is, when we hear words like acid, or we hear things that kind of get our attention, we always assume physiologically that they're bad. And in this case, we need to have some stomach acid. Okay? My parents have lost their sense of taste as they aged. Is there anything that we can do to improve their eating? Make sure that the food is flavorful. And again, depending on their overall state of health, you may need to add back some salt to their diet in order to get them to enjoy their food. But we come to the end of this course. I want to share some final tips with you, reminders on what it's going to take to help you to make good nutrition decisions every day. First and foremost, I'm going to tell you to eat for balance and color. All the nutrition that we need for the majority of Americans comes from the way that we organize our plate. Half of our plate fruits and vegetables, 1/4 of it lean protein, 1/4 of it whole grain. Somehow along the way, we've wanted to make it more than that, but eating for balance and color is so important, as well as the colors of the rainbow on your plate. Now, colors don't mean pink bubble gum and ice cream and golden French fries, but we're really talking about the colors of the rainbow that come from fruits and vegetables and grain. Another key takeaway point, calorie control, not the newest diet that's on the market, is a lifelong solution. This requires you to identify where you are the weakest and create a strength. And so that's the ultimate goal in terms of overall lifetime weight management. Also, I will always tell you to watch out for the shine. If a food is shiny on salads or pastas or meat, all sorts of dishes, if it's shiny, they've generally added oil. And this means extra fats and oils that most of us don't need at all. So again, an ordering tip for you when you go out to dinner is ask for things to be grilled dry, sauces on the side, and you can save a significant amount of calories and still enjoy dining out with family and friends. Remember to read labels with portion size in mind. And speaking of which, watch your portion size. Eat like a child. I've mentioned before, children are blessed with eating when they're hungry and stopping when they're full. So the key strategy is maybe you fill your plate and you challenge yourself to leave a little bit left. Get used to throwing away those last couple bites of food. Stop when you could have a few more bites, but stop before you get to that Thanksgiving fullness. Move. Exercise is important to any good nutritional plan. We are supposed to, as human beings, move. Our bodies crave movement like they crave good nutrition. And remember, we're supposed to enjoy our foods. It's not about a nutrient, it's not about an ingredient. My ultimate definition of good nutrition is essential nutrients in the right amount, plus, and underscore the plus here, it's the foods you love because you are you. Don't make a plan to give up something that you absolutely enjoy. Think about how you can integrate it in moderate amounts. I will tell you, it has been a pleasure to serve as your guide through this journey to wellness. I hope with the information we've shared during this course, you will be better equipped to make the best possible diet and nutrition choices for yourself, your family, and for a long and healthy life. Thank you very much.